As we're being told, we now have some live pictures coming in from Gaza right now. Now, as you probably know, Hamas is expected to release 6 Israeli hostages in return for more than 600 Palestinian prisoners this morning. Apparently it is going to happen this morning, including 2 who have been held by Hamas since they entered Gaza under unexplained circumstances a decade ago. So these are the live pictures now that we're receiving. I mean, obviously, again, we're seeing these vans moving towards what will be Red Cross vans.
Yes.
And we are expecting to see hostages, hopefully.
Are you surprised, Robert, this is still going ahead after, I mean, thank heavens it is, but after the mess we've seen
this week? Yeah. We're very sad and awful, and the in-your-face, absolutely counterproductive moves by Hamas. You know, this display of military muscle,
and music and dancing,
which just jarred, which showed that they're very low on EQ, on situational awareness, and they want to win friends in the world. And I think that even Hamas is not much loved across the Arab world, and that would have made it worse. I'm looking at the pictures, and although we have the Hamas masked people, it seems that there's less razzmatazz, because had they done it again, it pushes Netanyahu closer and closer to resuming the war.
Yes, in fact, it was a very delicate situation.
Yeah, exactly, and that is the position. Is he really going to do it? Is he really going to press the button? How much control does Trump and Trump's team have on this? But it's very interesting that the man who's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting and negotiating there, Witko, has actually been in Russia and was negotiating with Putin over the prisoner release. You can't be all over the place. And reading the Israeli press, which I was doing, the English language Israeli press last night and preparing to come in here, there's a great deal of holding their breath as to what they're going to do and what Netanyahu's next move is going to be. You know, there was the thing of 3 empty buses being burned in Tel Aviv. Was this a false flag? Nobody knows.
Hamas is denying involvement.
Yeah, and everybody is holding their breath. It is Shabbat, it's Sabbath in Israel. There will probably be an important cabinet meeting either tonight after sundown or tomorrow, and I think we'll have a clearer indication. It does depend. I think Trump doesn't like long wars, and I don't think Trump would be keen on Netanyahu resuming the war, despite the fiery rhetoric about Hamas being destroyed. Who is going to run Gaza? Could Israel even really successfully reoccupy Gaza? It's absolutely up in the air. And the symbolism of what we're seeing on our screens now is an absolutely vital part of this.
Yes, and as you were saying, and as Stephen was pointing out, the situation was so delicate after the last release, which was so badly, I was going to say badly handled, but clearly that's how Hamas planned it to be. Do you think it shocked them that the world was shocked by the way they did it? I mean, and it did come so close to Netanyahu saying enough.
I think they did, but there's something slightly unhinged, and it's because it's a besieged community, even about you know, who is really running Hamas and what is it. Obviously they do health ministry things and so on, but there are still thousands and thousands of fighters there. What do they really want? Are they defending? It's been so much a feature of Palestinian politics is that you can never really get to a concrete end state. The rhetoric is fine. Let's have freedom. Let's have our state. But how do you run it? How are you going to run the economy? We'll have to work with Israel and so on. These things are as remote as ever. I thought, in a way, that when Trump came in, we were more likely to see a settlement in Gaza before one in Ukraine. I think it's the other way around now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just going to ask you that.
I think it's the other way around. I think there will be a ceasefire in Ukraine by the early summer. Okay. A ceasefire. I'm not saying a treaty or agreement, but the Gaza piece, nobody is in full control of their narrative.
Robert, we've got to leave it there for now. But really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
And of course, as soon as we see anything actually happening in Gaza, we'll cross live there again. OK, we're going to leave the papers there just for a second now and cross to Gaza. Robert Fox has been watching, but it looks, Robert, as though there is a hostage being transferred there.
Yes.
I must say he doesn't look as fit and healthy as...
No, it's been quite tortuous.
And they're still parading him on a stage.
Yeah, they're really stuck on this. And as we were saying earlier, Anne, it's not a good look, is he? He doesn't look well. And again, it's a sort of lack of situational awareness, of EQ. This will annoy a lot of the Arab nations too, this kind of stuff, because they don't want to get hung up on Gaza as well.
It's a hateful look, that. You look at the backdrop, the backdrop is artwork portraying war, destruction and explosions. He looks very weak, and he's got armed guards either side of him, looking very threatening. It's a terrible look, isn't it?
Well, it also makes it very difficult as to what happens next. Yes, the 6 are coming out. Whether they are going to produce, unfortunately, the body of Shuri Bibas is...
she's the mother of
the two red-headed boys that they said they were releasing, and it turned out to be a Gaza refugee, as far as we can make out from the path, the forensic examination, PM, post-mortem examination by the Israelis. And this is important, Anne and Stephen, because as we were saying earlier, we're going to get an indication from this, what we're seeing there, for next week, as to whether the peace process has legs, whether it can go through the next stage, which we know is so critical. It was initially the release of about 30 hostages, then you'd go into the second phase, which has to discuss the final phase, which is the whole question of Palestinian statehood, what happens in Gaza to the people there, and the guarantees for Israeli security. Oh my goodness, they put the hostage speaking. I mean, this is... I mean, no criticism of him. He has little alternative, seeing what's around him.
We don't know what he's saying at the moment, but frankly, it could be anything.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, 2 of these hostages have been held for 10 years.
Yeah.
And we don't know why they went into Gaza in the first place.
Yeah.
So that adds into the confusion of this. But this is the final stage, the final release of the first stage.
A tranche, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's what... be very interesting to see what the Israeli commentary is tonight as they come up, as I say, to the big crucial security cabinet meeting, the security committees. And undoubtedly, I think Netanyahu will have a full cabinet meeting. The Israeli press, I mean, such as I read it, and unfortunately, I don't read Hebrew, but the Israeli press in the English language is very lively and very healthy, discussing the pros and cons and what is actually going on.
So for the benefit of our radio listeners, it seems to be 2 hostages now.
Yes.
The second is now being moved into a Red Cross van. Can you imagine the relief after being paraded like that, pushed around and pulled around by masked men, the relief to get into a Red Cross van, my goodness.
To be fair, I've got to say, because the other hostages looked comparatively well. I know these guys have been held onto by the gunmen, but I wonder if that's because they're in such a bad state of health. I mean, they almost look like they're being held off.
Yes.
Well, this is the thing that unfortunately has come up with Shuri Bibas, is that it is pretty incoherent. They are being held by different groups.
Yes.
And I mean, Hamas is absolutely, terrible, their condition. But you then have the complete wild card of Islamic Jihad, which has been doing, which the Israelis are keeping their eye on, not only here but also in the West Bank. And I think this is some of the stuff that you're getting
from the Gazans, not that you're getting much through public media at the moment, but those that have managed to do opinion polls, no, boy, they can do them. They're not very pleased with Hamas, these poor families that have been kicked up and down the strip, you know, as refugees.
Just a brief, we're down to the last 30 seconds, Robert. Hamas says it's ready to move on to the second stage, which would be a comprehensive swap and a permanent ceasefire and full Israeli withdrawal. Is that likely to happen?
No. Netanyahu will talk tough because his whole political reputation and how he sees Israel, whatever you may think of his view, depends on it.
OK, Robert, really good to see you. Thank you, and thanks to Kane and Winston as well.